The clatter of plates, a metallic symphony of forks scraping ceramic, the insistent hiss of the industrial coffee machine perpetually brewing its dark, strong elixir, and the low, comforting murmur of morning conversations, a tapestry of mundane sounds that formed the familiar symphony of Pop's diner. It was a comforting, chaotic hum that usually enveloped everyone within its greasy, warm embrace, a sensory blanket of familiarity that lulled patrons into a sense of belonging, a feeling of being part of something larger, a bustling, vibrant community. But in booth 4, tucked away near the perpetually fogged-up window, a single figure sat in stark, almost defiant silence. He was an old man, his silver hair neatly combed, each strand meticulously placed, a stark contrast to the slight disarray of the bustling diner, a testament to a quiet, unwavering discipline, a meticulousness that spoke of a life carefully ordered, perhaps rigidly so. His worn tweed jacket, its elbows shiny with age, its fabric softened by countless years of wear, was a relic from another era, a silent testament to a life lived, but now seemingly paused, suspended in time, a still point in a turning world, untouched by the currents around him. His hands, gnarled with age, the knuckles swollen and stiff with arthritis, rested on a pristine white napkin, untouched, as if waiting for a signal that never came, a cue from a forgotten play, a call from a distant past, a silent expectation. A cup of black coffee sat before him, steaming gently, its rich aroma mingling with the comforting scent of bacon and toast, of frying eggs and maple syrup, of the everyday comforts of a diner, but it too remained untouched, its warmth dissipating with each passing minute, a silent, cold testament to his profound detachment, his disengagement from the present. He didn't read a newspaper, didn't fiddle with the phone, didn't even glance at the bustling scene around him, the vibrant tableau of everyday life unfolding just inches away. A world he seemed to observe from a profound distance, as if through a thick pane of glass. His gaze was fixed on the street outside, on nothing in particular, his eyes distant, unfocused, lost in a world only he could see, a world perhaps far removed from the diner's cheerful chaos, a world of memory and quiet sorrow, a private universe he inhabited alone. Every single day, for as long as anyone could remember, a silent, unchanging sentinel, a ghost of a man, he was there. Alone. And everyone, every single person who worked at Pop's, every regular customer, had long stopped asking why. They'd stopped seeing him at all, his presence so constant it had become invisible, part of the furniture, as unremarkable as the sugar dispenser or the ketchup bottle. A permanent fixture in the background, easily overlooked. But one morning, a new waitress, her uniform still crisp, its creases sharp, her apron tied with a fresh, hopeful knot, her smile still genuine, untainted by the weariness that often settled on her colleagues' faces, her spirit still unbroken by the relentless grind of early shifts and demanding patrons, dared to look and dared to ask. And what she uncovered, what she gently coaxed from the depths of his profound silence, would shatter everything they thought they knew about the quiet man in booth 4, revealing a profound, heartbreaking, and ultimately hopeful story hidden in plain sight, waiting patiently to be told, waiting for someone to finally listen, to truly see him. For years, Arthur Finch had been more than just a regular. He was a fixture at Pop's diner, as much a part of the worn linoleum and the faded red booths as the salt and pepper shakers on every table, an immutable part of the diner's very fabric. A silent, unmoving landmark, in the daily routine. His routine was as precise as a Swiss watch, wound by an unseen hand, ticking with an almost obsessive regularity, a ritualistic devotion that bordered on the sacred. 7:15 a.m., Monday through Saturday. Booth 4, black coffee, 2 slices of dry toast. He never deviated, not by a minute, not by an inch, not by a single item on the menu. His consistency a silent, unyielding declaration of a deeply ingrained habit, a profound commitment to his routine, a refusal to embrace change. He never spoke beyond a curt, almost imperceptible nod when his order was placed before him. A silent acknowledgement of service, a minimal engagement with the world, a refusal to engage in conversation, to share a word. He never made eye contact, his gaze always distant, fixed on some unseen point beyond the window, or perhaps simply inward, lost in the labyrinth of his own thoughts and memories, a world only he inhabited, a world of the past. He never lingered after finishing his coffee, which often remained half full, growing cold, a testament to his lack of engagement with the present moment. His mind clearly elsewhere, detached from the immediate surroundings, from the warmth and bustle of the diner. He simply sat, a silent sentinel, observing the world outside, or perhaps observing nothing at all, merely existing within the confines of his ritual, a prisoner of habit, a ghost of a man, a shadow in the corner. The other waitresses, hardened by years of demanding customers, endless shifts, and the emotional toll of constant service, had long ago labeled him the ghost. He paid in exact change, his movements precise and economical. Never a penny more or less, a silent statement of his detachment, a refusal to engage in the customary exchange of gratitude, of human connection, of the small courtesies that bind people, and vanished as quietly as he arrived, leaving barely a ripple, a faint scent of old tweed in his wake, as if he had never been there at all, a fleeting presence. They saw him as an inconvenience, a perpetual placeholder in booth 4, taking up valuable space that could be filled by a more profitable, more interactive customer. Someone who would engage, who would leave a decent tip, someone who would contribute to their livelihood, to the diner's bottom line. Pop, the diner owner, a gruff man with a heart of gold buried under layers of cynicism and decades of short-order cooking. A man who had seen it all, who rarely surprised, merely grunted when asked about Arthur. "He pays his bill. That's all that matters," he'd say, his voice dismissive, outwardly uninterested. But even Pop, in his rare quiet moments, when the diner was empty and the lights were low, when the last customer had left and the smell of bleach filled the air, sometimes wondered about the man who seemed to exist outside the flow of time and conversation, a solitary island in a sea of human interaction, a mystery he had long given up on solving, a silent question mark in the heart of his diner, a puzzle he couldn't crack. Arthur's solitude wasn't just a habit, it was a fortress, impenetrable and unyielding, built brick by silent brick, guarded by an invisible wall of grief and memory, protecting a secret world no one dared to enter, a sanctuary of sorrow, a tomb of remembrance. Sarah, however, was different. She was new to Pops, barely 6 months in, her uniform still crisp, its creases sharp, her apron tied with a fresh, hopeful knot, her smile still genuine, untainted by the weariness that often settled on her colleagues' faces, her spirit still unbroken by the relentless grind of early shifts and demanding patrons, by the cynicism that often permeated the air, by the constant demands of the job. She'd come to the city with dreams of becoming a writer, of weaving intricate narratives, of capturing the human experience in words, of giving voice to the voiceless, of finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. But the harsh reality of rent and student loans had landed her amidst the clatter of plates and the pervasive smell of frying bacon, a stark contrast to the quiet world of words she envisioned, a compromise she endured with a quiet determination, a temporary detour on her path. She was observant, a natural storyteller, always looking for the hidden narratives in the everyday. The unspoken dramas playing out in plain sight, the subtle cues that revealed deeper truths, the silent stories waiting to be told, waiting for someone to notice. From her very first week, Arthur had intrigued her, while her colleagues saw an empty space, a vacant stare. Sarah saw a story, a mystery waiting to be unraveled, a silent book waiting to be opened, its pages filled with untold experiences, with profound emotions. Why did he always sit alone? Why the same order day after day, without variation, without a single change, as if time had stopped for him, as if he were reliving a single moment? Why the distant, almost melancholic gaze fixed on nothing in particular, as if searching for something that wasn't there or something that was long gone, a phantom presence? Her curiosity was a persistent itch, a quiet hum beneath the surface of her busy shifts, a nagging question that refused to be ignored, a puzzle she felt compelled to solve, a human connection she felt compelled to seek, a bridge she felt compelled to build. She'd tried subtle overtures, small, almost imperceptible gestures of connection, a slightly warmer "Good morning, sir," delivered with a genuine smile, an extra napkin folded just so, a refill of his coffee before he even asked. A small act of attentiveness, a silent invitation to engage, to acknowledge her presence, to break through his shell. He met each with the same impassive nod, the same distant stare, a silent, unyielding wall, a barrier she couldn't seem to penetrate, a fortress she couldn't breach. It was like trying to connect with a statue, a figure carved from stone, beautiful but unresponsive, seemingly devoid of life, a silent sentinel. Yet a deeper empathy stirred within her, a recognition of something profoundly human beneath the stoic exterior, a shared vulnerability, a silent understanding. She saw the quiet dignity in his solitude, a stoicism that commanded respect, a strength in his silence, but also a profound, aching loneliness that resonated with her own occasional feelings of isolation in the vast, impersonal city. A city that could feel overwhelmingly solitary despite its millions of inhabitants. A place where it was easy to get lost, to feel unseen. She remembered her own grandmother, alone after her grandfather passed, the quiet sadness that had settled over her, a shadow that never quite lifted, a grief that had consumed her, leaving her isolated and adrift. This wasn't just a customer, this was a human being, seemingly adrift, carrying an invisible burden, a silent weight of sorrow, a story untold, a life unshared. The unspoken question gnawed at her, a persistent ache in her heart, a quiet insistence in her soul. What profound sorrow, what unshakable grief, what untold tragedy, what devastating loss had led him to this daily ritual of solitary confinement? What story, what lifetime of experience, what unexpressed pain, what enduring love lay buried beneath that stoic exterior, waiting to be discovered, waiting for someone to finally listen, to finally see him, to finally reach out. One particularly slow Tuesday morning, the diner almost empty, save for a few scattered regulars lost in their own thoughts. The clatter of plates muted, the hum of conversation barely a whisper. A quiet stillness settling over the room. Arthur was in his usual booth, a silent anchor in the quiet room. A fixed point in a shifting world, a monument to routine, a testament to his unchanging presence. Sarah had just delivered his coffee and toast, the familiar clink of the mug against the saucer echoing slightly in the stillness, a small sound in the vast quiet. Instead of turning away, instead of retreating to the safety of the counter, to the familiar rhythm of her duties, to the comfortable anonymity of her job, she lingered, clutching her order pad tightly, her knuckles white, her heart pounding a nervous rhythm against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of apprehension, a silent countdown to a moment of truth, a pivotal decision. This was it, the moment she had been building towards. The question she had to ask, the barrier she felt compelled to breach, a leap of faith into the unknown, a step into vulnerability, a risk she was willing to take. It felt audacious, a brazen breach of the unspoken diner code, a violation of the unspoken rules of privacy, a risk to her job, to her comfort, to her very sense of belonging, to the fragile peace of the diner. But she couldn't ignore the persistent whisper of her conscience any longer, the quiet insistence of her empathy, the nagging feeling that she had to try, that she owed it to him, to herself, to the human connection she sought. She took a deep breath, steeling herself, gathering every ounce of her courage, pushing down the fear that threatened to overwhelm her, to silence her, to make her retreat. "Mr. Finch," she began, her voice softer than usual, a gentle inquiry cutting through the low hum of the coffee machine, a fragile sound in the quiet space, a tentative invitation, a hopeful overture, a quiet challenge. "I hope you don't mind me asking, but you come here every day? Same time, same booth, same order?" She paused, allowing her words to sink in, her gaze meeting his, directly, unflinchingly, for the first time, a silent challenge, a demand for recognition, a plea for connection. His watery blue eyes, usually distant, unfocused, widened slightly. A flicker of surprise, perhaps even alarm, passing through them like a bird startled from its nest, caught unawares in its sanctuary, its private world exposed. He flinched almost imperceptibly, a slight tremor in his hand, as if struck by an unexpected blow, as if she had peeled back a layer of his carefully constructed shield, exposing a raw nerve, a vulnerable core he had long protected, a wound he had kept hidden. "I was just wondering," she continued, pushing past her own nervousness, past the sudden surge of fear, her voice unwavering, infused with a quiet determination, a gentle insistence. "Why do you sit alone every day?" The question hung in the air, a fragile, intrusive sound in the quiet diner, heavy with unspoken meaning, laden with the weight of curiosity and compassion. A question that demanded an answer, a truth to be revealed. Arthur's face, usually so impassive, so unreadable, seemed to tighten, muscles clenching, a tremor passing through his gnarled hands, his knuckles turning white as he gripped the edge of the table, as if bracing himself against an unseen force, against a wave of emotion he could no longer contain. He didn't speak. He simply stared at her, his gaze now intense, almost accusatory, filled with a mixture of shock and perhaps resentment, as if she had violated a sacred boundary, intruded upon a deeply personal space, a sanctuary of sorrow he had painstakingly built, a world he had kept private. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, punctuated only by the distant clatter of a fork, the hum of the refrigerator, the beating of Sarah's own heart, loud in her ears, a frantic rhythm. Sarah felt a blush creep up her neck, a sudden wave of regret, a hot flush of shame. Had she overstepped? Had she offended him beyond repair? Had she shattered his fragile peace, his carefully maintained solitude, his only comfort, his only way of coping? She was about to apologize, to retreat, to vanish back into the safety of her duties, to escape the suffocating tension, to leave him to his silence, to his secrets, to his impenetrable fortress, when Arthur finally, slowly, with a deliberate, almost agonizing slowness, turned his head back to the window, his gaze once again distant, lost in the world beyond the glass. A world of memory, a world only he could see, a world that existed only in his mind. He took a slow, deliberate sip of his cold coffee, his hands trembling slightly, the cup rattling against the saucer, a small telltale sign of his inner turmoil, a tremor that spoke volumes of his profound grief. He still didn't answer. The question remained unanswered, a gaping open loop that now felt even more profound, more agonizing, more laden with unspoken sorrow, a mystery deepened, a wound exposed, a silent plea for understanding. Sarah, disheartened but unwilling to push further, unwilling to cause him more distress, unwilling to break the fragile connection she had just forged, unwilling to abandon him to his silence, finally turned and walked away, leaving him to his silence, to his secrets, to the impenetrable fortress he had built around himself. But a seed had been planted. The question had been asked. A crack had appeared in the wall, however small, however imperceptible. The silence was no longer absolute. The first stone had been dislodged. The human connection had begun. The next day, the air in the diner felt heavier to Sarah, thick with the unspoken tension of the previous morning. A palpable sense of anticipation, a nervous energy that hummed beneath the surface, a quiet hope. She approached booth 4 with trepidation, her heart a tight knot in her chest, expecting the usual impassive nod, the impenetrable silence, the familiar wall of his guarded self, a return to the status quo. But as she placed his coffee and toast before him, Arthur cleared his throat, a dry, raspy sound that seemed to scrape against the quiet, a sound that spoke of disuse and profound emotion, a sound that broke the silence, a fragile bridge between their worlds. A hesitant overture. He still didn't look at her, his gaze fixed on the steam rising from his cup, as if finding solace in its ephemeral warmth, as if drawing courage from its fleeting presence, a small comfort in a world of sorrow. She liked the window seat, he mumbled, his voice barely audible, a whisper from a forgotten past, a fragile thread of memory, a secret finally shared, a profound revelation that altered everything. Always said the morning light was best. It made her feel alive. It made her smile. It filled her with joy. It was her favorite part of the day. Sarah froze, her order pad clutched in her hand, her breath caught in her throat, her mind racing to connect the dots, to piece together the fragments of a story, a life. She whispered, her heart pounding, a sudden surge of understanding, a dawning realization, a profound shift in her perception of him, a revelation that changed everything, illuminating his silent world. Arthur took another slow sip of coffee, his hand still trembling slightly, but now with a different tremor, one of profound sadness, not just age, a tremor of grief that shook his entire being, a deep, abiding sorrow. "My wife," he said, his voice a little stronger now, but still distant, laced with a profound, aching sadness that permeated every syllable, every word, a sorrow that seemed to emanate from his very being, filling the space around them, a palpable presence. "Eleanor, we came here every morning for 52 years. Same booth, same order for her, black coffee, 2 slices of dry toast, just like mine. She loved the way the light hit this table, how it made the dust motes dance in the sunbeams, how it illuminated the world with a golden glow. She said it reminded her of hope, of new beginnings, of the simple beauty in every day, of the promise of a fresh start, no matter the challenges." He paused, a long, heavy silence stretching between them, filled with the weight of unspoken grief, of a lifetime of shared moments, of a love that had defied time, a love that still burned brightly, fiercely. "She passed away 2 years ago. The light hasn't been the same since. Nothing has been the same. My world went dark. My purpose vanished." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken grief, with the crushing weight of a love lost, a life irrevocably altered, a profound emptiness that echoed in the quiet diner, a hollow space in the bustling room. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat, a physical manifestation of her empathy, a shared sorrow that brought tears to her own eyes, blurring her vision. 52 years. Every morning, the same booth, the same order. His daily ritual wasn't about solitude, it was about remembrance, a sacred act of devotion, a desperate attempt to keep her presence alive, to defy the finality of death. It was a silent, unwavering tribute to a love lost, a desperate, poignant attempt to keep a memory alive, to recreate a cherished past, to cling to the ghost of shared happiness, to defy the finality of death, to keep her spirit near, to feel her presence, to maintain their connection. He wasn't sitting alone, he was sitting with a ghost, with a lifetime of shared mornings, with the vibrant, enduring presence of Eleanor, a love that transcended the veil between worlds, a bond that death could not sever, a devotion that defied logic. He was not a ghost. He was a living monument to love, a testament to an unbreakable bond, a silent storyteller of a lifelong devotion, a man consumed by a love that was his entire world. Over the next few weeks, the story unfolded, piece by agonizing piece, a mosaic of love and loss, of joy and profound sorrow, painted with the brushstrokes of memory, each detail adding depth and color to Arthur's world, revealing the rich tapestry of his past. Arthur, slowly, hesitantly, as if testing the waters of shared vulnerability, began to speak more freely, his words flowing with a newfound ease, a release of pent-up emotion, a gentle unburdening of his heart. He told Sarah about Eleanor, his beloved wife, his partner in life, his muse, his confidant, his everything, the sun around which his world revolved, the anchor of his existence. He spoke of their first meeting at a college dance, a whirlwind romance that defied expectations, a love at first sight that blossomed into a lifelong partnership, a bond that deepened with each passing year, with every shared joy and sorrow of their shared dreams of becoming architects, of designing beautiful spaces that would inspire others, that would stand as testaments to their vision, to their shared passion, to their enduring legacy. He spoke of the small, cramped apartment they'd shared as newlyweds, filled with blueprints and laughter, with the scent of coffee and ambition, with the vibrant energy of youth and shared dreams, a haven built on love and hope, a sanctuary of their early life. He spoke of their struggles, the lean years, the moments of doubt, the challenges they faced together, hand in hand, facing the world as one, but also their triumphs, the quiet joys of a life built together, brick by painstaking brick, filled with mutual respect and unwavering support. A foundation of unbreakable love that weathered every storm, every hardship. He told her about their morning ritual at Pop's, a sacred time for them, a moment of quiet connection before the demands of the day, a pause in the chaos of life, a cherished routine that grounded them, that brought them closer. A daily communion. He described Eleanor's vibrant spirit, her infectious laugh that could fill a room with light, her unwavering optimism, even in the face of hardship, her ability to find beauty in the mundane, to see the extraordinary in the ordinary, to bring joy to every moment, to every person she met. He spoke of the day she was diagnosed with a rapidly progressing illness, the brutal, swift decline that stole her vitality, her strength, her very essence, the agonizing final moments, the last whispered words, the crushing silence that followed, a silence that echoed in his soul, a void that could never be filled, a profound emptiness that consumed him. And then, the silence, the crushing, unbearable silence that followed, a void that swallowed all sound, all joy, all meaning, leaving him adrift in a sea of grief, a world without color or music, a life without purpose. He hadn't been able to bring himself to change their routine. Coming to Pop's, sitting in booth 4, ordering their usual, was the only way he felt he could still be with her, to keep their shared life alive, even if it was just a phantom presence, a ritualistic communion with a ghost. A desperate attempt to defy the finality of death, to keep her spirit near, to feel her presence, to maintain their unbreakable bond. He was trapped in a loop of grief, a prisoner of memory, bound by a love that refused to let go, a love that transcended time and space, a love that was his entire world, his reason for existing. Sarah listened, truly listened, with an intensity that went beyond her professional duties, her heart aching for him, feeling the echoes of his profound sorrow, sharing in his grief, understanding the depth of his loss, the weight of his burden. She didn't offer platitudes or empty reassurances, knowing they would ring hollow, knowing they couldn't possibly fill the void he felt, knowing that sometimes words were insufficient, that only presence mattered. She simply offered presence, a quiet understanding, a safe space for him to share his profound sorrow, to finally unburden his heart, to speak the unspeakable, to release the pain he had carried for so long, to find solace in shared humanity. She started doing small things, subtle gestures of care that spoke volumes, small acts of kindness that resonated deeply, that built a bridge between them, brick by gentle brick. She'd bring him a fresh pot of coffee just for him and let it sit on the table, warm, a silent offering of comfort, a gesture of thoughtful attention, a small luxury. She'd quietly wipe down the table with extra care, as if preparing it for Eleanor's phantom presence, a gesture of respect for their shared history, a silent acknowledgement of her enduring love, a way to honor her memory, to keep her spirit alive. She'd sit with him for a few minutes after the morning rush, when the diner was quieter, when the noise subsided, when the world seemed to slow down, just listening, sometimes saying nothing at all, sometimes sharing a small anecdote about her own day, a tiny thread of connection, a fragile bridge between their two worlds. a shared moment of humanity that slowly chipped away at his isolation, at his profound loneliness. Arthur, slowly, almost imperceptibly, began to change. The distant gaze softened, the impenetrable shield around him beginning to crack, revealing the vulnerable man beneath. The man who had loved so deeply, who had grieved so profoundly. A faint smile, a mere ghost of a smile, would occasionally touch his lips when he spoke of Eleanor. A fleeting moment of joy amidst the sorrow, a glimmer of the man he once was, a sign of healing, a tentative return to life. He started to look at Sarah, truly look at her, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes, a recognition of her compassion, a silent thank you that spoke volumes, a profound acknowledgement of her impact. He was still lost in his grief, still bound by memory, but he was no longer utterly alone. Sarah, in turn, found a quiet purpose in their daily ritual, a profound meaning beyond the clatter of plates and the grind of her job, a sense of fulfillment she hadn't anticipated, a deeper understanding of her own place in the world. Her own struggles seemed less overwhelming, less insurmountable, when confronted with Arthur's profound, enduring love and loss, his quiet resilience, his unwavering devotion. She realized that sometimes the greatest acts of kindness aren't grand gestures, aren't heroic rescues, but simply showing up, listening, and truly seeing another human being, acknowledging their pain, their story, their enduring spirit, offering a quiet presence in their darkest hour, a silent hand to hold. One blustery autumn morning, almost 6 months after Sarah first dared to ask why, the leaves outside Pop's diner swirling in a dance of gold and red, painting the street with vibrant hues, a final beautiful flourish of the season, a poignant reminder of change. Arthur arrived at his usual time, precisely 7:15 a.m. But today, something was profoundly different. He wasn't wearing his worn tweed jacket, the familiar uniform of his grief, the shroud of his sorrow, the symbol of his isolation. He was wearing a slightly newer, though still classic suit, its fabric crisp, its cut impeccable, a subtle shift in his demeanor, a quiet declaration of change, a step into a new chapter, a re-engagement with the world. And in his hand, he carried a small, elegantly wrapped package, tied with a simple, tasteful ribbon, a gift, a token of appreciation, a symbol of gratitude. He sat in booth 4, but instead of staring out the window, lost in his memories, he looked directly at Sarah as she approached, his gaze steady, expectant, filled with a quiet purpose, a profound intention, a radiant warmth. His eyes, though still holding a deep sadness, the echoes of his loss, also held a newfound clarity, a quiet determination, a spark of renewed purpose, a glimmer of hope that shone brightly, a future dawning. "Sarah," he said, his voice steady, stronger than she had ever heard it, devoid of its usual rasp, imbued with a newfound vitality, a resonance that filled the small space, a voice of conviction, of profound meaning. "I have something for you." He pushed the package across the table, a small offering, a profound gesture, a silent thank you that transcended words, a tangible expression of his gratitude. Eleanor always said that kindness, true kindness, was the rarest and most valuable thing in the world, more precious than gold, more enduring than any building, more valuable than any fortune, more powerful than any material possession. And you, my dear, have shown me more kindness in these past months than I thought possible. You brought me back from a very dark place, a place where I thought I would remain forever, a place of profound despair. a void of grief, a living tomb. His voice wavered slightly, a tremor of raw emotion, but he held her gaze, his eyes conveying a depth of gratitude that words could not express. A silent testament to her impact, a profound acknowledgement of her role in his healing, a recognition of her profound humanity. Sarah, bewildered, her heart pounding with a mixture of apprehension and curiosity, her hands trembling slightly, opened the package slowly, carefully, as if unwrapping something sacred, something of immense value, something that held a secret. Inside, nestled on a bed of soft tissue paper, was a small, exquisitely carved wooden bird. It was a robin, its wings spread as if in flight, captured in a moment of boundless freedom, its tiny eyes painted with remarkable detail. A testament to incredible artistry, a miniature masterpiece of craftsmanship. It was identical to the one the woman had given her in the park, the woman who had been fired for kindness, the woman whose story had intertwined with her own in such a strange, unexpected way, a profound coincidence that sent shivers down her spine, a thread connecting seemingly disparate lives. The same robin. Her heart pounded, a frantic drumbeat of disbelief, a sudden rush of understanding, a profound connection. This was impossible. A profound, almost mystical connection seemed to hum in the air, a sense of destiny unfolding, a recognition of a pattern she couldn't have foreseen, a tapestry woven by fate and kindness. It was Eleanor's, Arthur explained, his voice soft, filled with tender remembrance, a gentle echo of a cherished past, a loving tribute to his beloved wife. She loved robins, said they were symbols of hope, of new beginnings, of the enduring spirit even in the bleakest winter. A reminder that spring always returns, that life finds a way, that beauty can emerge from sorrow. She had a collection, each one a cherished memory, a piece of her soul, a tangible link to her spirit, a silent companion. This one was her favorite. She always said she wanted to give it to someone who truly understood what it meant to care, to someone who saw beyond the surface, to someone with a compassionate heart, someone who embodied true empathy, someone who would carry her spirit forward. He paused, a profound emotion in his eyes, a flicker of Eleanor's enduring spirit, a silent presence in the room, a shared understanding passing between them, a bond forged in shared grief and newfound hope. And then, after she passed, after the world went silent, after the light seemed to dim forever, after I thought my life was over, I found her will. She had left a significant portion of her estate to establish a foundation dedicated to supporting young artists, especially those who struggle, those who have lost their way, those who believe their dreams are out of reach, just as I felt my life was out of reach. Lost in grief, she believed that art, true art, was born from the soul, a profound expression of the human spirit, a way to connect, to heal, to inspire, to transcend pain, to bring light into the world, and that every soul deserved a chance to express itself, to find its voice, to create beauty in the world, to leave its mark, to fulfill its potential, regardless of their circumstances. Sarah stared at him, then at the robin, then back at Arthur, her mind reeling, struggling to comprehend the enormity of his words, the profound revelation, the unexpected twist of fate that was unfolding before her eyes, a destiny she could never have imagined. A foundation, supporting young artists, her own buried dreams, her own lost aspirations, the canvases she yearned to paint, The stories she longed to write, the worlds she longed to create, suddenly flared to life, a painful, exhilarating possibility, a shimmering mirage suddenly made real, tangible, within reach, a future she had only dared to whisper in her darkest moments. "Mr. Finch, Arthur, I don't understand," she whispered, her voice barely audible, choked with disbelief, with overwhelming emotion, with a dawning sense of wonder, of awe. This is incredible. But why tell me? Why me? I'm just a waitress. I have no experience with foundations, with art, with anything on this scale." Arthur smiled, a genuine warm smile that reached his eyes, chasing away the last lingering shadows of grief, replacing them with a quiet joy, a profound sense of purpose, a radiant hope that illuminated his face. Eleanor was a quiet woman, but she was fiercely passionate about art, and she believed in people. She believed that kindness was the most powerful form of creation, that it built bridges where walls once stood, that it healed wounds and brought light to darkness, that it transformed lives, that it was the true engine of change. She wanted to build a bridge for those who felt lost, just as I was lost in my grief, just as you saw me, just as you reached out, just as you brought me back to life. The foundation is called the Eleanor Finch Legacy Foundation, and it needs a director, Sarah, someone with not just an understanding of art, but a profound understanding of the human heart, someone who knows the value of a kind word, of seeing someone when no one else does, of listening when everyone else has stopped, someone who understands the quiet dignity of struggle and the profound power of a helping hand, of a compassionate spirit, of true empathy, of genuine connection. He paused, his gaze unwavering, filled with a quiet certainty, a deep conviction, a profound trust that shone in his eyes, a silent plea and a powerful offer. "I want you to run it, Sarah. I want you to make Eleanor's dream, and perhaps your own, a reality. I want you to give others the chance you gave me, the chance to be seen, to be heard, to find their way back, to find their purpose, to fulfill their potential, to create their own beauty. What do you say?" Sarah sat there, stunned, the diner fading around her, the sounds of clatter and conversation replaced by the quiet hum of possibility, a symphony of hope, a chorus of dreams, a melody of destiny, a new chapter beginning. The world had tilted on its axis, spinning wildly, then settling into a new, breathtaking alignment, a landscape of unimaginable opportunity, a future brighter than she had ever dared to dream, a path laid out before her, clear and luminous. The lonely old man in booth 4, the man everyone had ignored, the ghost in the diner, was not just a widower clinging to a memory. He was the guardian of a profound legacy, a testament to a love that transcended death, a love that sought to uplift and inspire, to create beauty from sorrow, to leave a lasting mark on the world, to be a beacon of hope for generations to come, a silent force for good. And he was offering her not just a job, but a chance to reclaim her own lost dreams, to become the artist she had always longed to be, to use her kindness as a force for good in the world, to build a legacy of her own, to be a beacon of hope for others, to transform lives with the very compassion that defined her, the very empathy that had seemingly cost her everything. The why had been answered, not with a simple explanation, but with a life-altering revelation, a profound testament to the power of human connection and the unexpected ways in which compassion can bloom in the most unlikely of places, transforming not just one life, but many, creating a ripple effect of hope and opportunity that stretched far beyond the confines of Pop's diner, touching countless souls. Her simple question, born of genuine empathy, had opened a door to a future she never dared to imagine, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in plain sight, waiting for someone to simply ask why. Swinging, waiting for someone to truly see, to truly listen, to truly care, and to unlock a world of profound possibility, a world transformed by a single act of kindness. If this story touched your heart, imagine the countless others waiting to be told. Don't let these moments of profound human connection go unseen. Subscribe to our channel to discover more incredible true stories that will inspire you, challenge you, and remind you of the extraordinary power of empathy. And if Arthur and Sarah's journey resonated with you, share this video with someone who needs to be reminded that a simple question can change a life. Your support helps us bring these vital stories to light.